So today we are on the hunt. We will be finding and searching for homes here in Colorado Springs without an HOA. So we have 3 neighborhoods picked out that you're going to want to see if you do not want an HOA here in Colorado Springs. We're going to do some detective work today.
So we're going to be telling you about them, showing you them, driving through, all while telling you literally showing you pros and cons of HOAs.
All right, so we are off. The first stop that we have found without an HOA is Charleston Place. So Charleston Place sits in the north, kind of Briargate area of Colorado Springs, and we're going to talk about the pros and cons today. We did a whole episode on HOAs in the studio, but now we want to kind of get out and show you some of these neighborhoods because a lot of our clients, like we said in that video, either really want an HOA, absolutely do not want an HOA, and like 30% are like
the numbers
indifferent.
Really surprised me. So what was the numbers? Do you remember?
I can't remember what
40%.
It was like 30 kind of ish in there, wasn't it?
Was it? I remember the split decision.
Yeah.
So I think that's about right. So it's pretty equal if you're indifferent. About 30% said definitely an HOA and 30% said definitely not.
So we're going to get out and show you some of these homes in each of these neighborhoods. The last one's on the west side, so stay tuned to the end. That's one of our favorite areas of our clients, absolutely. So this one, homes are from the 600s or some in the 500s as well. You're talking a lot of 2-story homes in Charleston Place. You feed into D20 schools. You're feeding into Mountain Ridge Middle School, Academy Endeavor Elementary School, and then Rampart High School. So again, we do have school choice, so sometimes kids from this area go all over.
I spotted it, Lori.
What'd you? Oh, see, yep, a no HOA.
If item. You will see over here, there is a trailer in the driveway, which good, bad, indifferent. We're remaining neutral here, but we're pointing it out that there is. It looks like you can park.
You can park RVs here.
RVs. There's another trailer coming.
You can park trailers. There's no parking restriction on the street.
And I will say this feels still pretty, it's one of these areas, some of the areas we're taking you to, you can definitely tell there's no HOA.
But look ahead. So let's get out here and we're going to show you, just kind of walk the streets and show you.
Well, but that's what, this one, I wouldn't know that there's not an HOA till you stumble upon some of these things. So we're going to get out and show you this.
So this is our first example of a neighborhood without an HOA. You can see we have a bright green home here, and we have a bright yellow home here, and there is hardly any grass on this home as well. Where if you look at other places, as in like Wolf Ranch, Cordera, places with an HOA, you are probably not going to get away with going to the HOA management and asking them to paint your house a bright green color or bright yellow. As you can see, they have a storage shed in the back. You can have storage sheds. You're not going to find a lot of like outbuildings per se, at least larger ones here. The lots are not big enough here to have that, but there is no restriction on the number of trees you can have, what you can do with your deck, at the outdoors. You can park RVs here. So there is city ordinances as far as you can't block like a sidewalk in some of these neighborhoods
or
as well.
have like goats or sheep in your yard.
You can like have chickens here, like because there's no HOA, but a number of limited.
But the city will restrict you.
Absolutely, yeah. So you can't have like horses here,
even though the HOA won't.
But we're going to show you another place that has a small HOA where you can have horses here right in the heart of town. So differences, pros and cons of HOAs. And I will say, within a contract, there's always time that you pull HOA docs, or you can pull city regulations behind something that you might want to do in this area. And so we always go through that during a regular real estate transaction. That is example number 1. I think we just like our little costumes today. So I always kind of
look at this fancy hat. I was like, does it go this way or that way? We're going with
trying it both ways. But I have, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, we usually film for you guys and kind of talk about the Colorado Springs area. Sometimes we do it in our studio. I usually pull more data stats. So sometimes I'm like, hey, Kayleen, we're going to talk about market trends, market inventory, we're going to talk about bond yields and like be all professional. And then the next day she shows up and I'm like, here,
I
put
like
this.
these days better.
I'm like, now we're going to be detectives and we're going to go find some HOA communities or no HOA communities. But like that has so much stuff on that front porch. That would be a con if that bothers you. I would say there is a lot of items on that home's front porch.
But I would say when talking to our clients, there's a lot of people that are very, very against, because I don't know if it feels like there's like infringement upon their rights, or if it's more a matter of holding home values and they've been in a scenario before where they don't want to be told when to take down their decorations or whatnot. But for some reason, there are some people that are very adamant about no HOA. I would say a lot of people also do not want an HOA because if they're moving to Colorado and they have their RV, they want it right outside their door.
Right.
The other part to consider with that is, are you going to actually have room? Are you okay with it blocking maybe a garage bay or something?
Do I go left?
Yeah,
go that way.
Okay.
She's a little lost. Helping her get out.
But there are pros and cons, and I know people don't like to be told what to do, but I think the number that we had pulled, if you took a home that was without an HOA and the exact same home and put it into an area with an HOA, on average, the home with the HOA, the value is about 4% higher. And I do believe that is due to some, strict covenants and enforcements. And I know you don't see it a lot of times at the very beginning of a new build community, but give that community like 20 years.
Some time to turn over and have different neighbors.
And then you'll start to sometimes feel that.
Yeah.
I think we also have a community we're going to show them where there is actually an HOA, but they are very hands-off, and the HOA dues are very minimal.
And that's what we can talk about. Some people say they don't want an HOA, so we say up in a home search, but we're eliminating some of those neighborhoods then that maybe have an HOA, but it's like this one we're going to now has some land. You probably could do outbuildings. It does have an HOA, so I would like, if you wanted this area, I would say let's pull HOA covenants and take a look at the restrictions for outbuildings. We did that once with a client who wanted to build greenhouses in the back, and they had technically covenants HOAs, but it wasn't.
But
that
it was
fine
an acceptable guideline.
Right, exactly. And they wanted to park their stuff. So in this community, it's only the one we're going to is $25 annually.
And that to me also tells like the amount of dues that an HOA is collecting and who's managing the HOA kind of tells you a good story of how enforceable they're going to be. What I do like about at least having something in place, say your neighbor, like, I don't want to be told what to do. Okay, that's fine. But say your neighbor does start building like a tiny home on the edge of your property. At least you have somebody and a piece of what am I trying to say?
I don't know.
Like, you have somebody to go to besides just the city, and to be able to say, hey, is this against codes? Is this against what we're able to do? Because sometimes they're in place, but it's just a matter of enforcement, and that's what I think we're going to see.
And a lot of new builds
here.
Also, if you're doing a new build or you want that newer home, you probably will be within an HOA. There's very few exceptions to that.
Very, very true.
I think the sentiment around people when they talk about HOAs is they're like, I just bought a $700,000 home. I really don't want anyone telling me what I can or can't do with the money I just spent. Is kind of the sentiment around it. Like, it's another like government, I would say, overseeing them, and they don't.
They feel like
that.
they should be able to say.
And they might have an RV is another one. They don't want to park. There's very few. Like, we found a few for clients that can park their RV
with an HOA.
With an HOA, because you have to not only have that no HOA, but you have to have the room on the side of it in the land to park that HOA.
And that really is what it comes down to, I think, in a lot of these areas, is that, especially the lots in the city, there's just not a whole lot of room. Now, if you go out to like maybe Winsome Ranch or some of those,
but you're talking a pretty penny at that point.
That's
too,
what
which
you're
is
up
fine.
to, like 1.3, 1.4 million. And even at that, I don't think you can still park an RV, but they still require it to look a certain way. Like you have to have a shed roof, or it has to be, the look of that building has to be similar to the main residence. So,
Right.
You know what? Sometimes it's not so bad because it does help keep like an aesthetic appeal, a cohesiveness to an area. But I get it. You don't want to be
It's hard
told
for me
what to do.
Take you seriously with your hat and glasses.
Why? I
don't know.
It's supposed to make me more credible.
I don't know if that's what the direction we're going here today, but you are very credible. But so we should
I think
go
we're
on
right
this
here.
Fuller. Go past this one. There's that Fuller. That's the home with the land, and then
Left?
no, I'm sorry, right. You're right.
Okay, I was like,
I thought you were going to go right there. That's the
I
church.
have to hurry and
Here, and then we could even, so these are with land, and then if you wanted a home for like 600,000, we could show them the one that we
right
sold.
in the neighborhood.
That
Yep.
we sold.
And it had
a year and a half ago.
RV storage.
It did, because it had a pull through side. It was on the corner lot, and it had a pull, like a double fence.
So this is a super interesting area.
Yep. You can have
Because it's
horses.
in the middle of town, but you can have horses and outbuildings, and there's no HOA in place.
So I don't know if you guys noticed, we were on a 5-minute drive from that neighborhood that sits in Academy District 20.
These are giving me a headache. I gotta take them out.
There's not even a lens in it.
I know,
just don't
but
like that?
I think it's the compression. Look, there's a dumpster in the front yard.
Yeah, so they're really, like I said, $25 HOA, but they have fencing, different types of fencing. I'm trying to look for like an outbuilding. I know I've seen
There's some outbuildings right there.
and then they have horses. There's an
There's
RV.
an RV.
So we're gonna.
But
get
the
out.
beauty is you can have a detached garage.
True.
So I do think you're
Yeah,
gonna
look at
have.
that huge detached right
I
there.
know. See, it's gonna have to be a little bit of a give and take. I would say we get on a phone call. We have somebody with a healthy budget thinking of moving here. A lot of people want land. They want an outbuilding, and they want a new house, but they don't want an HOA. You're gonna have to give on something because, to be honest, that just doesn't really exist. So then we have to say, well, do you really need that outbuilding? But are you okay with maybe a little bit of an older house? Or, hey, we're going to have to increase the budget. Where's really your top end? And so we'll help navigate those conversations. We're pretty dang honest with you guys. But sometimes it's just a matter of seeing it and saying, oh, you know what? Maybe we're fine with just a 4-car garage in a regular neighborhood because I can still have my workshop. Or if you're like, nope, definitely not okay with somebody telling me what to do.
Yeah.
Want my RV here.
Right.
So here's another instance. More trailers, an old Bronco.
Yeah.
Here's a tractor. Sheds, greenhouses, like all sorts of different stuff. But you can do what you want.
I think our listing was right over here, wasn't it?
Yep. So now we're going to transition from like a little bit of
and we'll get
acreage
out on the
in
way out
town.
and kind of video those houses. I know sometimes it's hard to see. So when we're done with this house, we'll stop
Come
back
back.
on the way out and just kind of walk that
So
area.
then
you
we're
can see
into
that.
now a traditional neighborhood again without an HOA.
Yeah.
Uh,
Down here.
I'm
This
going to
is
go
Chapel
right.
Hills. Yeah, I would say it's right. That blue house right there.
Yep.
So
So look, you have anything from privacy, 6-foot, 8-foot fencing, to then a PVC white split rail, to a slug bug parked in the front yard, to
now these homes will be like 600, and the homes on that other side are probably at least 800 because of their lot size and
Yeah,
depending
at
upon the
least.
home. So it just depends upon each one of those homes is so unique. So each one could be anywhere between, I would say, 800 all the way up to obviously 1.3 or more million in that area of town. So
Yep.
but you're right in the middle of it. So that's the pro and con because it does go by Woodman. So we always want to say, that you are by kind of more of a major thoroughfare in that area. So that area of town used to be like the outskirts of Colorado Springs back in the day. And
Yeah.
now it's kind of in the center of town. It's one
there's
of
a
those
car for
developments.
sale in the front yard.
Oh yeah, you can do that in a lot of neighborhoods. So let's get out and show you this one, and then we'll show you some of those other properties, and then we're going to take you to the west side. So taking a look at this area with no HOA.
All right, so doing our research, what I wanted to point out around here, we aren't focusing on one house, but I just want to focus on without an HOA, sometimes that cohesiveness dissipates. So we have privacy fencing, we have a shorter garden white picket fencing, We have a white PVC fencing right over here. And then we have some yards without fencing at all. But, you know, what you can do is you're able to park multiple cars in an area. You can park your boats, your RVs, and there's nobody to tell you you can't in an area without an HOA. One thing I do want to point out though, Lori, before you zoom out of me, even without an HOA, there are city and county ordinances, and so just know that, like, if your neighbor's trying to run a business out of their residential home, like there are limitations that the city and county put out. So even though there's no HOA, there's still rules to abide by.
So this is the area I wanted to stop real quick and show you. So it's a little bit different, more expensive than the other, you know, traditional neighborhood, I would say. These homes probably sit anywhere between an acre to 2-3 acres, depending upon the area of this section. But that home right there, for instance, had a detached garage. Again, you have the different fencing all over as well. So you have new build homes and you have existing homes that are a little bit older. So a lot of different options here. Like I said, we're right here. There's Woodman and Union. We're right in the heart and center of town, close to, you're probably like 1 minute from Sam's Club here. You are 1 minute from Academy here. So easy access to all the amenities that the city has to offer. So that was an example. Sometimes people wonder what we are doing in these nice hats.
Maybe I should take my hat off when we're like filming.
So the next one we're going to is, you'll see we're going to head west off of Woodman here. I think, can you get out
I have
this
to go
way?
left and then right.
But you're going to see what major road we get off on, which I think is interesting. If you can figure out, I know there's one way to get off
This is
that
like
Woodman.
one of those pockets we talk about, like,
Yeah.
and homes don't, like, if you're like, I definitely want to be in town, but I definitely want acreage, I'm okay with no HOA, I have, you know, $850,000 plus budget, then we sit and we wait, or Lori and I farm an area if we know for sure.
We have one client right now.
One area that you want, we can kind of work it, do our best to generate something, and or you'll just have to have some time on your side,
and you can
and
tell
some flexibility.
that
with
last
what comes
area
on.
we were just at, you could either they tore down a home, or someone sectioned off part of their lots. Like you can see, this is a larger lot, and they built a new build home on there, because that was a new built home that was on that last part of that video. And so there is possible ways. It's just not real common to do that here in the middle of town, for sure. But so this is Woodman.
Here's the interesting part.
We're right off of Woodman, and so we're going to head west here, and you'll see Pikes Peak, and then you'll see how close we are to, like I said, at Sam's Club and I-25. So we're heading to the west part of town, really desirable area of town, and this is a section. We bought and sold some real estate here for some clients many times, and they don't have an HOA, so you can have your chickens. It's just a matter, again, finding that lot that's
Well, and
available.
I will say, going back to those city ordinances, no, there is no HOA. But there are ordinances within the city. Like, I know if you're within city limits, you can only have 6 chickens. So if you want more than 6 chickens, you're going to have to be in the county. And now listen to this too. If you have 8 chickens and not the full dozen, it really is probably going to depend on your neighbor and how your neighbor feels about it. And if it bothers them and you're out of compliance, then you could be at risk for, getting slapped on the hand or whatever, and possibly having to get rid of those 2. Versus if you're in an HOA and you go beyond, say you have 3 dogs and the HOA says you can only have 2, then you're more at risk. Like, the HOA has more power to be able to fine you and to really say you cannot have 3 animals, and you can choose to try to fight that, but it is in their rules and regulations, and they have more of a say, and they can take more action against you.
Yeah, I would say that.
So
that's a good point. But I mean, I'm curious. So do you guys want an HOA? Are you indifferent, or you would love an HOA? Comment below. I'm always trying to get a pulse on what that is like.
So
for
what
our
would their
clients.
3 words be? Yes HOA,
No
no HOA, or I don't care.
I don't care. Yeah, you don't care about that. So I'm kind of indifferent. I
see the pros and cons.
I see the pros and cons. Like I currently live in a neighborhood without an HOA, and I complain about many aspects. Like I wish the neighbor wouldn't have six
parks.
or they park in front of my house, or I wish people would take care of it a little bit more. I can see the aspect of, like, depending upon the HOA, them being really nitpicky, saying, hey, you trim your branches, power wash your house. Like, those type of things where I'm like, listen, my house looks fine. Just leave me alone a little bit.
And now I went from living without an HOA to being in a very strictly enforced HOA. And I'm now, I wouldn't say I'm battling, but what I'm up against is I want to put on an extended deck eventually on my house. Well, when you read through and chat with they actually have a professional management company that manages their covenant enforcement. Some HOAs are ran just by homeowners. This one is ran by an actual property management company. And so when I talk to them, like, there are very strict guidelines, and it's going to be a more expensive build because of those guidelines. Like, when I add on my deck, I cannot just do what building code says is appropriate for that deck extension. The HOA says that I have to, like, stucco wrap columns, or rock wrap all my columns, which is a significant price increase than just using the raw lumber. And so you do.
Can you park your cars in the driveway and stuff like that? Because you guys have a lot of cars. Like, what's your rules for that? Do you know?
I haven't read it completely. I think there are rules and regulations, and I don't think it's more in my driveway, but on the street.
On the street.
I cannot park for more than, I think it's 36 hours on the street. So say my driveway's filled up and I do have guests there for an entire week, I probably need to write my HOA and let them know I have guests.
Yeah, that's what I mean. And that's
otherwise, you're going to get a naughty.
That's the thing about two-car. A lot of these homes will have 3-car garages, but some of them don't. They have a 2-car garage because it's a cheaper build. It's about 10 to 15,000 more to put on an extra garage, I would say. And it depends on where you're building. And if you don't have that 3rd-car bay, that limits not only your space in your garage, but also somewhere else to park in your driveway.
And depending on your family size, the dynamic. I know as we both have older kids, like, you have multiple cars because you don't have a lot of drivers.
When they're like 10. I never thought I'd have drivers. Now I have like 2 drivers. I have another one getting her permit. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have like 3.
You're going to have a lot of cars.
But when they were like 8, 9, and 10, I wasn't even thinking
that wasn't
about
even
that.
on the radar.
I was thinking about, like, surviving. But I wasn't even thinking about, what that's going to look like down the road. Thank goodness I have a 3-car garage. But when you do add drivers, you do add usually a car to that parking. So if you have to figure out how that's going to work.
And with that being said, I wanted a dog run. And so the first set of landscaping plans I submitted, it had the dog run on there, but I had like a cedar type fencing for the dog run itself, and my HOA says I have to have concrete fencing. But long story short, I had seen some cedar fencing. So the first set of plans came back and they said, nope, you can't have cedar fencing in the dog run area. It must be the concrete fencing. And so I literally took a picture of the one, and I said, here's a neighbor right down the road. They do have the cedar fencing, and I can get my plan reviewed now again. So there are ways around it, and I think you just have to be willing to go through the hoops. But on the other hand, I love all the amenities that I have. I love, walking through my neighborhood. Everything looks nice and kept and pristine. But typically we have smaller yard spaces because there's a lot more green space.
Yeah.
There's definitely pros and cons that you need to consider. The other part to that is...
No parking your boat, right? You can't park your boat
Can't park the boat. And then the other thing is, like, we actually have a 4-car garage, which fits our vehicles, but I didn't want to junk up the garage, and so now we have bikes just sitting there, and I'm like, what about an outbuilding? What about a shed? Well, it's not all what I want. I have to see what's approved.
You have to get it approved, and it has to look like your
and it
house
has to be able to
aesthetics.
look a certain way. So I'm like, maybe I'll just deal with the bikes in my garage.
So this is a great area in Rock Rimmon that when our clients say we want West Side, we want one HOA, we want homes from the 600,000, so maybe a little bit cheaper price point over here. This is a great area we kind of zone in on and kind of watch and see what comes available.
Oh, where's my little thing? RV.
Oh yeah.
And then we have different types of fencing again. One thing I will point out though, I feel like these are the neighborhoods with character.
Yes.
Like if you don't want to feel like cookie cutter and that monotony
Older
that some
trees.
people feel, you might have to be okay with no HOA because it's hard to find those character neighborhoods when everything is like earth tones and certain this is character and this is like mature landscaping.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Homes built in the 70s, 80s, you're going to have bi-levels, a lot of
Christmas
tri-levels
decorations,
in
and
this
it's
area.
February.
So we're going to get out and show you and kind of walk the streets so you can kind of see it a little bit more firsthand. But great area here in Rock Rimmon. Let's get out and take a look. So Kayleen's going to describe this area to us a little bit. You have a cute little play structure.
So I want to point out a couple things.
Oh, they have chickens too. Do you see the chickens?
No, I can't see over the fence.
Oh.
So no HOA, something like this. You're going to have to go to the city to get them to fix it. It's a whole lot more of a hassle to try to get somewhere with the city to fix something like that than just going to your HOA. So there's maybe a con. Pro is if your kids want a castle in the backyard, you can put one in. If you want chickens in your backyard, you can do that as well. And then why don't you turn around and show like just the character of all these houses too, because not everything looks the same. Like you can have this cute little Cape Cod style home, and then a few doors down you can have like an adobe style home, maybe colonial. There's stucco right behind you. You know, you just get a little bit more character. And again, part of that character is the landscaping, the shrubbery, but a lot of it is the style of homes. And because this is not in an HOA, you can get that very eclectic feel that's not so monotonous and cookie cuttery.
Well, that is our video of no HOA neighborhoods.
All of our detective work.
All of our detective work really paid off. I feel like we're little detectives all the time here in Colorado Springs. So if you want us to be detectives for you and you are moving to the area, whether you want an HOA, you do not want an HOA, absolutely.
Or you don't know.
Or you're indifferent. And you have some questions about just about what area fits for you guys and your family as you make the move here. We would love to help you. We do it daily. So reach out, put those numbers in your phone, and we'll talk to you next time we're out from Colorado.